Hello everybody, JGC Anime here, and today we are going to be reviewing Overlord 2, or, Overlord Season 2, so, yeah. I mentioned, I think, in the first review that I wanted to kind of, go through the series season by season, and weirdly enough, even though I don't remember liking this season that much, out of all 3 seasons, this is the one I remember the most from, so I was very curious going back into this, because I was looking forward to kind of seeing where things were and how I might change my opinion, and honestly it is a bit better than I remember, so let's just talk about it. So yeah, so what is the story of this season? Well, without going into too many spoilers, it starts where Ainz is going against a group of lizard men with his team, and the story focuses a lot on both the lizard men as well as Demiurge. And that's basically the starting premise. They're just going to go to war against these lizard people, and yeah, that's really hard to go into spoilers about it, but whatever. So that's the basic start to the whole series, the show for this season, and yeah. Sorry, that came off really awful because it's been a minute since I filmed one of these, but let's just roll with it. So some spoiler-free thoughts. I honestly really enjoyed rewatching this season. I thought, as I mentioned, I thought that there was parts of it that I remember quite fondly that I enjoyed, and overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. There were a few parts that weren't as entertaining, like I wasn't too into the Lizardmen storyline, but the storyline after that involving the character Sebis, which I can talk about in the spoiler section, I absolutely loved. It was super fun, and overall, I had a pretty solid time. It's so hard not to talk about spoilers, but overall, I do think that this was a step up from the previous season, minus the CGI. In both seasons, the CGI is absolutely awful most of the time, but that's not too distracting. In the past, it's a little less distracting. It's more distracting now that people have actually pointed it out to me, but sometimes you win some, you lose some situations. And overall, I still had a pretty awesome time with this season. It wasn't like super mega awesome, fantabulous, I don't know, that's not a word. Good, it wasn't like the best thing ever, but I still found some pretty good enjoyment out of it overall, and I liked it. I thought it did a lot of good jobs it did a good job of developing characters we didn't really get to know much about in the first season, and overall, I think it was definitely a step up from the previous season. That's all I can really go into without spoiling anything. It's really hard to come up with stuff that isn't a spoiler, so we're going to hop into the spoiler section now. Here's a timestamp to when the spoiler section will come to its conclusion. If you have seen the series, I'd recommend sticking around for the spoiler section to hear my thoughts, but if you haven't, I'd recommend skipping to the end. But again, if you have, well, actually, I'd recommend sticking around. So yeah, we're going to count up from 5 and enter the spoiler section. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So, in terms of spoiler thoughts, like just spoilers in general, I really liked a lot of the later storylines in this series of this season, where unlike in the first storyline where they fight against these lizard men and we spend a lot of time with the lizard men, which I didn't hate. I didn't like it the first time I watched it, but this time I actually did enjoy it a bit more now that I knew that for a fact that we'd be following these characters for a long time in the story. And overall, I thought they were a nice little touch, but I definitely feel like everything else in the season was a lot better. Such as the battle with Sebis, finding a girl and ends up taking care of her because he remembers what his creator always said about helping people, and ended up, in the end, getting a girl with her, and she ends up falling in love with him, which is honestly a really nice little story of itself. But this season definitely had a lot of focus on Sebis, and I really appreciate that because I really like Sebis. He's probably one of my favorite characters in the entire series. And I'm glad to see how much butt he kicked in this season. It was really entertaining seeing how easily he was able to take care of problems and show why he was a butler for Nazarick. And while the series didn't focus too much on Ainz or anyone in Nazarick other than Demiurge, I still thought it was a very entertaining season because one thing that Overlord seems to do really well is build up the side characters, make us feel for these side characters, that way when they had to move on or maybe die or something, you always felt bad for them because you got to know and learn about these side characters. And it's not like Ainz and everyone else are completely gone from the story. A lot of them are still there. It's just the fact that, well, they're not the main characters this season, and honestly, I didn't hate that. I thought the side characters were really entertaining. Though, I won't deny the fact that I did enjoy when Momon showed up at the end, where he just kind of pops in there and starts helping it, and he works along with Demiurge in order to create a goofy little play. It was just really fun. And overall, I just thought the later few episodes after the Lizard storyline were just a lot better in general, and I had a really good time watching them. I had a lot of good laughs, and I just had such a fun time, and I'm glad I got to check it out. So, again, there is a few issues I have with it, such as the CGI. Oh my lord, the CGI. It looked awful so much. Like, sometimes it was so abysmal that, honestly, I didn't know what the heck I was looking at. There was this scene where they were fighting these things called hellhounds, and they were some of the ugliest looking. They looked like Audifretta levels of bad CGI. Like, it was awful. But I still liked it. I still enjoyed the heck out of it, and overall, it's just a good season. I don't feel like it's just more positive overall. It's really hard for me to describe it, because I just had such a good time while watching it that I really struggle to say anything new that really isn't more than positive, because everything just comes out as positive. I guess we'll keep going over some things I actually thought were pretty good. One would be when the character known as Evil Eye, when the character Evil Eye fell in love with Ainz. I thought that was super funny. I thought it was a very hilarious little thing. Well, she didn't fall in love with Ainz. She fell in love with Momon, who is Ainz, and it was just just seeing her get so flustered over him was so funny, because it basically just makes you think, wow, he seems to really draw a lot of a girl's attention, especially Monster Girl, since I'm pretty sure Evil Eye is actually at least that's what I think they're trying to tell us, that she's from when she took off the mask, I think she's a vampire. I'm pretty sure, like 99% sure she's a vampire. And it was just really funny. Maybe she's not, but I don't know. I don't think we see her in season 3, so that's a bit disappointing, but I found her whole interaction with Momon to be absolutely hilarious, and how she just has this big crush on this guy who just kind of fell from the sky, and she's just automatically been like, oh my gosh, princess really do come and save the princesses, even if they're not actually princesses. And it was just so funny. And I had such a good time with that. And overall, I just keep talking about how much I love this season compared to the first one. And I just had such a great time. I wouldn't say I'm enjoying it as a lot of shows I've been watching right now, but so for the most part, had such a great time that it's hard to really think of any negatives. I wouldn't say it's the best thing ever. It definitely has issues. Like, sometimes I feel like they could have had some moments to give the stuff a little breathing room, and sometimes I feel uncomfortable because characters are not really what I'm into. Like, there's this character who's the princess of the nation. I'm trying to remember her name. I'm pretty sure her name was like Renee or something. And I found her whole character to be slightly uncomfortable, because she's meant to be like this sadistic character that was really into this character called Climb, who honestly, I really like him. I hope nothing bad happens to him, at least right now. I don't know if something bad happens to him in the future. I don't remember anything bad happening to him in season 3, but I haven't watched season 4 yet, so I hope he's okay. I really didn't like Renee. Her character is not very fun, because I'm not a fan of two-faced characters sometimes. I don't hate two-faced characters, but sometimes they can just really get on my nerves with how really creepy they can be, and I don't like them. And the fact that she's like this two-sided character where she tries to be all innocent and kind, and then after she does that, she's actually this creepy, vile person who's really sadistic. I didn't really like that too much. In fact, I found it to be one of the most uncomfortable parts of the show. But yeah, if there's one complaint I have to give this whole season, it's probably the voice actors. I watched this show in dub because I'm weird like that. I ended up watching this series dubbed a while back and decided to watch it again dubbed. And I didn't notice it the first time I watched because I was still new to anime at the time. But I did not realize how awkward some of the voice acting is in this. Like how I mentioned before that Sebas ends up finding a girl, and I believe her name is Tuare or something. I think that's it. And in the season, she has one of the most quiet and hard to hear voices out of everyone in the cast. Like, I just cannot understand a word of what she is saying. It's so hard to understand. And unless I turn up my headphones all the way, I barely can hear her. She's just so quiet that I get her whole character is meant to be nervous, but it was so hard to sit through some of her lines because I just couldn't hear a word she was saying. How was I supposed to take her seriously if I couldn't even understand her? Just sometimes the English casting could be so weird, and sometimes the acting is a bit subpar. But, I still like the majority of the dub, and I'm satisfied enough with it, so I can roll with it. And, yeah, I think that's all I really have to say, so we're at the conclusion of this video. What are my final thoughts? It's a pretty solid season. It's definitely a step up from the previous season. I had a lot of fun with it. And overall, I think it was a very entertaining season, and I had a good time. And that is why I'd have to rate Overlord Season 2 an 8 out of 10. Other than some CGI and awkward voice acting from the dub cast, I had a pretty solid time overall, and I liked it. And I'm looking forward to checking out Season 3, and eventually watching Season 4, which will be very interesting since that's the only season I haven't watched yet, so yeah. That's all I have to say, so thank you all for watching. If you're new to the JGC Anime channel, don't forget to subscribe. I always look for new anime fans to the channel. And, yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all around. Peace!